Welcome to the Keto Geek Podcast. Let's do this.
Health, nutrition, fitness, low-carb lifestyle.
Greetings, everybody. Welcome back to the Keto Geek Podcast. My name is Fahad, and I am the host of this show. Today, I am joined by Corey, who is the production chief here at our Keto Geek headquarters. Corey, how goes it today?
It's going good as usual. You guys are keeping me busy.
Well, summer is coming. I think people are finally going to go back to school, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And or are they already in school? What time of the year is it? I'm lost.
What year is it?
Isn't it 2018?
I think so.
And we recently got into the May Keto crate box, and then in the June, we're going in June Keto delivered, or is it May Keto delivered?
We're in May as well, actually. Yeah, it's weird because they ordered it and then they wanted it by middle May.
Guys, I'm losing track of time, but you know what I am doing these days? I'm reading this wonderful book, and it's called, not actually reading, but actually listening to it on Audible. It's called The Hungry Brain, and it is written by Stephen Guinet. Did I pronounce it right?
Guinet.
Sorry, Stefan. I butcher people's names, and if you're listening to this show, I apologize for that. Your book is amazing, and if anybody who would like to know the sort of like a neuroscientist perspective on food, health, nutrition, and why we're in this mess, that's a really fantastic book, and I agree with a lot of things that are said in the book, despite the fact that it's not exactly a keto book, but it's a really fascinating informational piece. And you got to hear some bits of it. Did you catch something out of that?
Yeah, we listened to a chapter of it, and I found it pretty fascinating. It's just instead of like really focusing in on one thing like everyone does and demonizing the heck out of it, this guy kind of rips the whole engine out and totally deconstructs it and cleans it out and puts it back together for you.
Yeah,
super cool.
So I would recommend, I think we both would recommend the book by Stefan. So let's explain to people, because we've had some people ask us, hey, how do I consume these energy pods that you guys make here at Keto Geek? By the way, some people who don't know what the energy pods are, they're keto-friendly, tiny little snacks that you can carry anywhere, everywhere. They're shelf-stable, and they're made with the best ingredients we can find in the entire country, and we have them on our website. You can go to ketogeek.com and check them out and buy them, and people seem to love them. What's your favorite?
My favorite right now is the pecan coconut.
Oh, mine's the chocolate, followed closely by the pecan one. And here's, people can't see it, but on the video I just showed them the chocolate fudge energy pod.
It probably looks a bit blown out, but you can always go to the website and check it out. It's right there.
Yeah, and so let's tell people, how do we consume these pods?
So these things can be consumed multiple different ways. The most often way you're probably going to consume it is because they're meant for travel and meant for busy work styles. You just rip that lid open, and if you have no spoon, you can fold it into a spoon and consume it right out of the pod. So that's like consumption method number one. Method number two would be to blend it into a hot beverage. The chocolate fudge actually makes a really nice hot cocoa beverage. And also, if you enjoy something cold, you can do it in cold water as well. And my personal favorite way to eat the chocolate fudge is to throw it into the freezer and then pull it out, let it thaw just a tiny bit, and then consume it, because I've always loved the flavor of chilled chocolate. So those are the many ways you can consume the energy pods. We encourage people to get creative, and we've been having a lot of awesome feedback on Instagram. Some folks making really cool recipes out of the pods. So far, my favorite one, as far as creativity is concerned, was making a peanut butter chocolate truffle out of our energy pod. Now that is cool.
Yes, and you know what's really cool is that we're building this sort of community around these pods, and what we're trying to do, combining all of this information that we learn from all these educators that show up onto the podcast and turn it into an actual sort of product. And so it's been quite a journey for us. And if you notice, some of these pods are off various levels of sweetness. For example, the chocolate fudge one is the sweetest one, followed closely, I believe, by the pecan coconut.
I think they go head to head in sweetness. Honestly, they're both pretty sweet.
And the walnut one is a little less.
Yeah, the walnut one's going to be more on the savory end, honestly. Brings out the warmness of the ghee and then mixes nicely with the cardamom.
Yes, and I think behind the stage, we've stopped using the term sweetness or saltiness. We're more focused on words like palatability, because that's what really can impact what you consume and how you consume. Because you could have something that's extremely sweet and you can't consume it at all. Period. For example, pour a cup full of sugar or sweetener on top of any salty food, and you might have more sweetness in there, but that's going to be the most disgusting thing you can ever consume. That's not palatable. So that just becomes an outlier or something that doesn't make sense. So that's why I think that paradigm shift needs to happen, where people need to focus on how delicious or how palatable it is and whether it has a tendency to overconsume. But you know what's really fascinating? And there's this term that we both use backstage, and it's called the Twinkie effect. So what happens in the Twinkie effect is, let's say you consume a certain food item and you consistently consume it, like 10 of those in a day. So for the first day, you'll consume a lot of it, and then the next day, it's going to go even lower. You're probably going to consume 6 of those, 5 of those, or 8 of those, and then it's going to continue going down, down, down until your appetite seems to adjust. I've noticed this anecdote among a lot of people who consume our product and a lot of other products as well. So it makes me think whether one of the ways to combat food addiction and a lot of these issues might be to limit the diversity of foods. And this goes hand in hand with Stefan's book, where he talks about something called the buffet effect, where you're consistently exposed to so many different foods and you can overconsume the hell out of it. And it makes sense from a bit of an evolutionary perspective as well, because the Paleolithic man did not have a recipe book. He did not have access to the latest tools that they have for processing or creating foods. So if people can technically use that some sort of mechanism to limit their food intake. So one of them is the calorie restriction, but what if you try a diversity restriction? And by the way, that was the principle behind the nutty carnivore diet as well. You have anything to add?
Yeah, so let's tie in the energy pods into this and why they kind of fit into the Twinkie effect. So the energy pods have a varying level of sweetness, and generally people start off when they first order something from us, they always order chocolates. That is a very familiar flavor. I'm pretty sure that's actually a widely recognized word across every single language in the world. Say chocolates, and that's like universal language. So they generally start off with that. And we found that when we were at Low Carb USA, people would go straight for the chocolates and then really, really love the walnuts and wants the walnuts more than the chocolate instead. The purpose behind that is to help people kind of wean down off of big sugar cravings. And it also has such a high amount of fat that it has a really high satiety factor. So once you've consumed the entire thing, wait a couple minutes, that sucker is going to sit in your stomach pretty heavy, but not heavy enough to destroy your day. But so like once you get down off of the addictions of food, you'll really start to enjoy the flavors of subtlety in like the walnuts, the spiced walnut, for example. The ghee becomes more apparent, and the toastiness of the walnuts in there. So it's pretty interesting. And I noticed that when I first started doing keto, I was really excited about all these keto snacks in the world, and I was consuming the heck out of those things. But eventually that all started to slow down, and then my sugar cravings completely died off. And now my diet has just become super efficient.
Yes, and I think we just went into a whole new level of information on this one.
That's another podcast.
Yeah, we could talk for hours, and we talk about a lot of these things in our Instagram live streams. But let's get back to our show, and today we have Danny Vega and Maura Vega, and they are fascinating human beings, and I follow them on Instagram. They are one of the people that I highly respect in the ketosphere, and one of the topics that we never covered on our podcast was how do you raise a family in a healthy way when everything tells you to do a certain thing, or these guidelines tell you a certain thing and they don't really work for you. So what's the right way? How do you stay skeptical? How do you keep learning and growing? So this is what the topic was. and I really enjoyed this conversation. They're really smart people. So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let me bring to you Danny and Maura Vega. Hello everybody! Two amazing humans have joined me today at the Keto Geek podcast. Two of my favorite people that I have been consistently stalking on Instagram. Do you guys mind if I stalk you all the time? I'll start off with the most creepiest question.
Stalking is mutual.
Stalking is mutual, so it's fine.
And I'm always motivated by you guys' optimism and positivity, which is off the charts amazing. And I didn't even tell people what your names are. So Danny Vega and Maura Vega, you are on our show. And you guys, how's it going?
Awesome, man.
It's going great.
On the positive thing, you know, we do that half as a survival tactic. So
yeah, sometimes I do it more for me than anything, and like I'm just hoping that someone else might be struggling and it helps them too.
Yeah.
So it's like by putting the positivity out there, it's like forcing me, which I'm actually a very negative person by nature and something that I've struggled with. And so by putting that out there, and it just helps me when I get messages like, wow, I really love all these inspirational posts that you're doing. I look forward to it every morning. And so it kind of keeps me accountable. So it makes me do it because I don't want to skip out. If I skip out on those, little routines that I have in the morning, I'm not going to have a good day.
Yep.
Okay, routines. I think we're just going to keep this a very open-minded, open-ended sort of podcast. What kind of routines are we talking about?
Well, I'm specifically talking about my morning routine. Something that I've recently, and I'm not still struggling. I'm not really good at it like Danny. Danny's a morning person. Danny, sleeping is a total inconvenience for him.
It is.
He doesn't have time for it. And he wakes up like, what did I miss? And that's how my oldest son is as well. Like he'll wake up at 5 a.m. no problem. Like as soon as he hears any movement, he's like, what's going on?
Yep.
I'm the opposite. I've never really been a morning person. However, because of my lifestyle currently and the fact that I'm with my two boys all day and they are just like nonstop, they're crazy pants and they're just fighting and just craziness. Like as soon as they're up, like that's it. Like I don't have time. Like that's it. I don't have time for myself anymore. And, after a while that started to really affect me because I wasn't making time for myself. And I was being, of course, taking it out on everyone, super moody. And so now I force myself to get up early, at least an hour before my kids do. Thankfully, my little one, which is the most challenging one right now, thankfully he sleeps. So even if Desmond wakes up, he'll chill and he won't really bother me or anything. But so I'll wake up and I get my coffee. That's the first thing. Danny tries to talk to me.
She doesn't wake up. If the coffee's not on.
I'm like, did I drink coffee? Why are you talking to me?
If I'm still in the bathroom doing my morning bathroom routine, which takes like 20, 30 minutes, then she stays in bed until she hears like the coffee like brewing and everything, and then she'll come up.
Oh, there's been times that my alarm has gone off and I see that Danny's, because Danny takes, I'm serious. I'm not even joking, guys. Like with the testing the ketones, the blood sugar, the bathroom, whatever. I don't know. He's literally in there for like a solid half an hour.
Yeah.
Solid. So I'm like, I'm not even getting up. What's the point? There's no coffee made and I'll die if I have to even try to do anything right now.
Yep.
So I'm like, I'll wait. But anyways, I'll wake up like an hour early before my kids and I have my 5-minute journal, my daily stoic, and like my Bible devotional while I'm listening to my meditation music. It's like my time to really get centered and get ready for my day and find some gratitude before, I get angry at someone.
And we've also been doing devotionals together, which is a new thing, which actually is pretty awesome because when you're reading the same thing together and you're just like, it's another way to just kind of just connect with each other.
Connect and keep each other accountable,
Yeah.
Because if we read something about a specific thing that we're working
Subject,
on, subject or whatever, anger, it could be anything. And
right now,
just read
unity.
that in the morning.
The biggest thing right now is unity because we feel like the biggest distraction for us is when I was just telling her today, like we're going to look back. I had this daydream. We're going to look back when we're older, right? And we're going to say, wow, we really went through so much crap. We went through so many challenges. But the challenges that we go through, we are not the cause of them. You know, it's like we're going through these challenges together, but we're not causing them for each other. But that being said, these external challenges that can, you know, cause a rift between us, if we don't stick together, then that's when we start to argue and that's when we start to fight. So we really have to stay united right now in this season where our youngest is just challenging is the word, like I told you before, you know, challenging is the word I like to use. You can use a lot of different words, but but you know, he definitely is the way, like, especially with Stoic philosophy, is that anything that's put in your life is either good or necessary. And so everything that we are going through is exactly what we need right now. And if we're mindful of that, we'll know that, look, this is actually a weakness of mine, and I'm getting exactly what I need to get. Right?
Absolutely, it's not fun if, you know, no discipline is fun while you're doing it, but it helps. It helps.
Yeah. And I do the same routine. I don't need to have the meditation going, but I do the same thing, the 5-minute journal. I do my own devotionals. I do, what else am I missing? The Daily Stoic.
The Daily Stoic.
And then after all of that is then when I get to my email and my other social media stuff. I don't get to all of that until I take care of myself.
How long does that take normally for both of you guys?
It's like an hour.
Man, it takes at least 45 minutes.
Yeah.
For me to really, because I don't want to, when I first started doing it, I was rushing through it like something that was like a chore almost.
Yeah.
And I'm not getting the most out of it, you know, and here's the thing with the 5-minute journal, especially every single morning, you have to write 3 things you're grateful for.
3 things you got to get done.
What is it? 3 things you're going to do today, how you're going to make today great. And after, you know, it gets a little bit repetitive. So you really have to think about it, and you don't want to just be writing mindlessly.
Yeah, like, I'm happy to be healthy.
Yeah, I'm happy, you know, whatever. So, and you know what, honestly, some days it is like that, and that's fine. Some days I'm grateful for my coffee, and that's
days I've been actually, what we've been doing too, like is finding things that are challenging to us and finding gratitude in that. Like, I'm grateful for the opportunity to improve my patience because of, you know, he's giving me that opportunity. And I find that if we do that, we'll always find gratitude because there's always something challenging, you know?
Yeah.
How come you ended up being a morning person? Do you think there's some family? Like for me, when I was raised in Pakistan, we used to wake up early in the morning for prayer times. That's how I became the morning person. So it's a conditioned sort of behavior, and now I can't break out of it unless I'm on some sort of a trip abroad and I have a jet lag. What about yourself? What got you into the mornings?
Well, for me, I guess it must be hereditary because my dad is the same way. And I think my dad was...
It's just easier for you to get up because that's how Desmond is. Desmond, as a baby, it was not fun because he wouldn't sleep and he would wake up so early. And so I feel like it's kind of, you're born with it, but I think that you can also, you know, train yourself
yeah, you were surprised. When you first started waking up, you were surprised at how effective and how beneficial it was for you.
Well, also, I will say that keto has tremendously helped me. And so we know that it's not about the amount of sleep that you get. Keto gives you just better quality sleep. Mm-hmm. And so I do wake up feeling way less hurt, I guess, because I literally would feel like waking up in the morning. It's like I used to feel like I got hit by a truck or something, you know, a headache and
swelling.
And yeah, just like everything hurt me. Yeah. But honestly, keto has helped that so much. And so it's still a little bit of a drag for me to get up. But when I'm up, I feel rested. Like I just got to get up. I just got to do it because I could stay sleeping.
And I think this is where it would be ideal to ask, how did you guys even get into the whole keto, low carb, and now to be, it seems a little on the carnivorous side.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, we do everything together, and so I had never done an actual really low carb diet except for right before keto, where we had done like a bodybuilding style cut. Where
that's not true. We were paleo.
Well, we were low carb.
That was the first time we
were like, paleo in 2011, 2000.
We did CrossFit when my son was born. Yeah, when Desmond was born. So it must have been 2011 for 3 years. Mm-hmm. And so doing CrossFit, Paleo was huge in that community. And that's when we first kind of were.
Yeah, we were probably in ketosis like every now and then.
Right.
When we didn't eat like paleo treats and like, things.
Yeah. And
agave nectar and, natural sugars.
Right. Even within paleo, I always found myself if I was gaining weight or I needed to, it was always like the sweet potatoes. It was always the carbs.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there was moments where we were in ketosis. That's when I started intermittent fasting. And honestly, I felt great. It's Danny's fault. I started eating carbs.
My fault. Yeah, totally my fault. Well, what happened was, me being the competitor that I am, I'm always like, I get somewhere, I'm like, okay, I want to be the best. And then I got with CrossFit and I was the strongest guy in the gym and I was always doing very well. But then when it came to the region or the open, that second open that I did, the third, I was just busting my butt, working out twice a day sometimes. And I only ended up like in the 200s or something. And you had to be in the top 50 to get to regionals. And I was just like,
you're burnt out. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, what am I really good at? Lifting heavy things. So I started powerlifting, and then you go into the powerlifting community.
Different.
Perfect example of what that's like. Why don't you tell them what you saw my first powerlifting meet?
The cereal?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just it's a different culture. It's all about the gains. It's all about the carbs. And, these guys are not scared of putting on weight because it's going to help them with their strength.
Yeah.
And so, and this is not just with powerlifting. There are many sports that to be elite, it's kind of probably not healthy. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
there are things that you might need to do.
Yeah. Once you get past a certain point, it's no longer about health.
It's about performance.
Number. Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, that first powerlifting meet, people were just walking around with like an entire box of cereal.
There was one guy that like his eyes were barely open, like he was so puffy and just eating cereal all day. And like, so when I started doing that, well, the first couple of months, the rails fell off. It was just crazy. Like I was eating Wendy's, but not the patties. I'm talking about Wendy's meals, and I'm talking about
everything, fries. Everything.
Yeah. And there was a video that she took of me or something, and it was like on Instagram or something. And then my old coach at CrossFit was like, "Oh man, you need to get back in CrossFit because you're getting fluffy. And if there's anything you want to do to get me to change, is like just attack my vanity." And I was like, "All right." So I cleaned it up, and so I started eating, rice and all those other carbs. But she was eating it, and she was feeling bad because we cook together, and we do everything together. So
it's hard to make separate meals. So I was like, that was also kind of when If It's Your Macros was gaining popularity. Yep. And it's such a scam almost. It's like such a lie.
Because you see it on the pictures.
You're seeing Instagram, you're seeing these girls and they're like, I got ripped eating donuts. Yeah, a donut never fit my macros, first of all.
Yeah, well, you can eat the donut and then you're going to have egg whites.
You're eating air all day.
So we did that for a while. And then at the end, and I was doing carb cycling and I was even coaching people like with that because I was, and it's unfortunate that I was just so myopic when it came to that because there were people that were struggling and I'm like, man, they're just not following it. I just know it. They're not following the program. It's
hard to follow it.
And then you lower calories even more. And now that we know the science, we know, obviously even just 8 weeks of a really low calorie diet is going to affect your ghrelin for up to a year later, So my friend Trevor, who we actually just we hung out with him this weekend. He was telling me every day at the gym, he's like, look at these keto pancakes. Check out this recipe. You got to do keto. You got to do keto. He was in my ear for months. And then we did when I tore my meniscus, I had to pull out of a powerlifting meet. And then I was like, well, let me just focus on getting healthy, losing some weight. And I did. My friend who's a bodybuilder, he wrote us a bodybuilding nutrition program. And, towards the end, our fat was super low. Mine was at 50. Yours was like at 30. Yeah. And, really low. And so then the carbs were low, the fat was low. And then we would have binge sessions that would last the whole weekend.
Yeah. The whole weekend.
Yeah.
And it's really it's just like such a horrible cycle because you have even if it was just Sunday, even if we tried to be good on Saturday and we're like, okay, Sunday's cheat day. It's that mentality. And just like the fact that I knew that it was over, I would be overeating to the extent that it was so ridiculous. Like just because I knew the day was ending, I wasn't even hungry, and I'm just like stuffing my face with cookies and all this stuff.
Let's
and
eat all the food. Let's get it all out of the house. That
Yeah.
way it's done, you know? And so we're here, like we're maxed out, past full, you know, and
still eating.
And then we did that 3 weekends in a row, and it was like Memorial Day weekend, and then another weekend, and then another weekend. And then I finally was like, on June the 12th, I think it was a Sunday, I started keto. And then imagine, I was already low carb, so just within 2 days of adding fat, I felt like Superman, you know. And then I ate so much bacon in the beginning that this one night I had a pack of bacon, and I had all the bacon grease, and I couldn't eat bacon.
He poured the grease on his food, and I'm just like totally grossed out because he just has to overdo everything. And I'm like, why do you gotta do this? I don't understand.
I couldn't eat bacon for a while. I couldn't eat bacon for weeks. I had an aversion because it was so nasty. Because I was just like, ugh. But yeah, then she became like 2 or 3 days later, she started it, and then, you know, we've never looked back.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was your journey into the whole keto lifestyle. How do you guys become part of Ketovangelist? What happened there?
Well, that started with me again. I remember the minute that happened. I was listening to, at the time, it was like Keto Talk with Jimmy Moore and Adam Nally, and then there was a Ketovangelist, and I was like, man, this guy, he asks really good questions. I really like his style. Let me reach out to him. You know, that's kind of like what I do when I like something. I reach out to the people I respect and either learn from them or find a way to get involved. And so I said in like July or August, I think it was July, it was like a month later, I said, listen, you know, I'm a former college athlete. I love your podcast, and I'd love to get involved. If you ever do anything with athletes, just let me know. And so he comes back to me and he says, actually, I'm going to start an athlete podcast. Why don't you come on as a guest? And so I came on as a guest, and he had done like 4 episodes that were just short snippets telling people like, this is what HIIT is, this is what this is. And I was his first guest, and we hit it off in our initial interview, and we stayed on like 30 minutes later, and I came out of the office and I told Maura, I was like, so you're not going to believe this. He wants me to be his co-host for a new athlete podcast that he's doing. And she's like,
I just started laughing on it.
She was like, that's so you. That's like,
because Danny, whenever he does anything, he's just like,
this is what I do.
I'm just like, so funny.
What I do. I don't care.
I want to mention something really quick. I'm gonna rewind because I think it's important to mention that another huge reason why I started keto was because after I had Dean, I got really bad postpartum depression, and I was on Zoloft for 2 years, and which doesn't really make you happy. If anyone's ever taken antidepressants, they know.
The very first.
It makes you happy for like the first day, and this is how it happens for everyone. Like you feel okay, like, and then like after 2 weeks it stops, and they're like, "Oh, you just need to increase your dose," and then it works for a little bit, and then it stops working. Oh, you need to increase your dose. I increased it from 25 to 50 to 100, and then I just stayed at 100, even though I was like, because the side effects honestly are not pleasant, and so I just stayed at 100, and it kind of just. Honestly, it doesn't really make you happy. It kind of just makes you numb. Kind of just makes you a little bit of a zombie. It's kind of scary because you kind of just don't care about anything at all. In general, you're like apathetic, which is kind of scary.
Yeah.
But and so honestly, when Danny mentioned keto, I knew that I was like already. It had been 2 years that I had been taking these medications. I was over it, and I knew that this was going to be the only way that I was going to be able to get off these medications. Because I had done enough research. I had done paleo before, and I already knew that fat was good for my brain. I didn't need keto to tell me that. I had already known from my paleo research and because I used to follow What's the Name Price and all that stuff. And so I already knew. So as soon as he said the word, I was all about it. And within I'm telling you, within a week, I mean, I had to detox from the meds, which was pretty scary. But
that was brutal. That was like
hard
2 weeks. 4 months.
No, it wasn't that long.
Well, the 4 month after you kind of cut it out was when you felt bad. There were lots of times where you just didn't feel good, and
yeah, it's like a crazy feeling. It's like you're totally out of control. But then right away, I felt great with keto. So, but anyways, I just wanted to mention that. I know I'm totally off topic.
No, that's very important. Very important.
Were there any books that you guys read or people that you followed that really shaped this journey for both of you?
Yeah, well, my friend that I told you about, I said he was a graduate assistant in Dr. Wilson's lab here at UT, and he was like, I was like, what do you got? Send me what you got. Give me book recommendations. He sent me like 41 clinical papers, just research studies, and I was like, I went through all of them, and then I was like, okay, what books? And so my initial books that I read were Keto Clarity, The Art and Science of Low Carb Performance, which was my favorite, and it would have been still my favorite had the Ketogenic Bible not come out. That's like my new favorite, because that's kind of like a desktop reference that, like, I'll have a friend who's like,
yeah, it has everything.
It has everything, and it kind of updates the newest stuff. And so I'll have someone that says, hey, my friend's son has epilepsy, and I really want to get him to try keto. I'll just literally take, a screenshot of the references from like chapter 5, and I'll see, like, I'll say, look up those abstracts and show those to him so he can see, the neurodegenerative diseases, how it can help. And the other books, well, there's been so many. The Big Fat Surprise. I really love The Vegetarian Myth.
But that's now. That wasn't like how we got started.
Yeah, the beginning was
for me it was no. For me it was because books are hard. Unless, well, I could do audiobooks, but I wasn't really listening to audiobooks at that time. Honestly, Jimmy Moore and Dr. Nally's podcast, Keto Talk.
Yeah.
I probably sat there and just like listened straight, like binged on those, because they address like all those little questions that I knew I was going to get asked and that I had,
or questions you didn't even know you had.
Questions I didn't know I had, and those kinds of things. And that was really helpful for me.
Yeah.
And then Ketovangelist, I was listening to a lot of that.
Yep.
Okay, fantastic. So you guys have an interesting training style that I noticed while following you on Instagram. How do you guys, or what do you guys train? I mean, do you guys have a specific style? Do you guys mix it up? And if you guys mix it up, what's up with the mixing? How do you choose?
You want me to go first?
Yeah, you go first.
Well, Danny actually has been mixing it up more lately, which is not typical of him. He usually sticks to a program. He's written me, I don't know. He's written me so many programs in my lifetime, and what is that? Anyways, and I've gotten bored immediately, and I need more variety. Personally, I get bored at the gym. Honestly, I go in there without a plan most of the time, and it backfires sometimes, but usually it works out for me. And I was doing CrossFit. I've never liked cardio, and so it was just fun to get back in the gym and lift weights. And I kind of approached it with like a whole new mindset. It was like more bodybuilding mindset. And it's just been fun for me. And then recently I kind of just go with how I feel. And so the lifting has been great and fun. And I do a lot of HIIT. But then recently, like not 2 weeks ago, probably like a month ago, I kind of tweaked. It's been longer. Yeah. I don't know how long. It's been like at least 2 months, maybe. Yeah. I kind of tweaked my back a little bit, lifting. Cause we go to the gym. I go to the gym like 6 days a week if I can.
Yeah.
I'll go 7
Sometimes
if I can,
7,
honestly, mainly just, that's like my meditation. That's my me time. I go there. I love being there. I listen to my music. I listen to my podcast. I go to the sauna. I spend like 3 hours at the gym every day.
Yeah.
I'm not working out the entire time, but I'm in the sauna, whatever. But so yeah, and I had been really, really wanting to give yoga a try. I have a dance background, and so lifting had made me super tight. I'm used to stretching and so I tried a yoga class, and I've been addicted since then. And now I've found a nice balance to where, because it was hard for the first few weeks trying to find a balance on how to fit it all in. Like, because I still wanted to lift, but I wanted to use yoga as, like an active recovery, and just to get my mobility back. And it challenges me in a different way. It challenges me mentally. It challenges me more in the way that ballet used to challenge me, like just holding the poses. Like, it's just it's different, right? Like,
yeah. It's...
Danny, poor thing. He almost like died the first day.
Well,
But so now I'm doing yoga at least 2 to 3 times a week. Mainly like a warm vinyasa flow. If I can make an ashtanga session, is that the times are kind of weird at my gym, and then like a flow. And then I'm lifting like 4 days a week. So, and that's like my groove right now.
Yeah.
And it's been working out awesome.
Yeah, she's also, the other thing I'll point out is like her whole lifting style has in the past 2 years has been much more focused on constructing her body, you know, and it's been amazing to watch, you know, because we have always been like functional, but you know, I even last year did a lot of this where I focused on building my body, because I saw one thing that you can credit social media with, and obviously for all the bad things that come with, you know, seeing pictures of people every single day who work out, there's some cool things where you get to see people who really just stay consistent and you see their bodies change.
Yeah.
And like, that's really cool to see that you can see like dimensions changing exactly where they want them to change. And she's done that. Like, you know, because with CrossFit, she was so focused on doing the workout and getting the workout done that her legs were different. Her legs were bigger, and she's always had a good butt. I mean, that's just how it goes, you know. But now it's like, you know, now it's just like, you know,
because with bodybuilding, you can literally sculpt whatever body you want, kind of. And so it's pretty awesome. Yeah,
that's cool. And so for me, I was always, you know, I was a football player, so I was focused on power and being athletic and being as fast as possible and as quick and agile as possible. And then I did CrossFit, and then I specialized in powerlifting. And there was a time there where I was really cool with being specialized at squat, bench, and deadlift. You know, let me get as strong as I can with that. I didn't run for several years. I didn't do anything like that. And then, you know, as I started to do keto, things start to change. You know, you find yourself with so much energy, and you find yourself more open to trying things. So I did a half marathon last year. And then, you know, of course, I've told you this, you know, the first interview I ever heard was with Dr. Baker, was yours. And I was just like, man, this guy
that was
really
the first
good
one.
questions.
That was awesome.
All the ones that you can ask someone questions that are, you know, kind of, they're going to help their cause, but it's so important. And this is why your whole process that you went through at the end, you know, the whole second half of last year, and that's continuing now, is amazing, because you're really digging deep and you're asking the tough questions. And so one of those things was,
those are the questions other people ask.
Yeah.
So you wanna make sure you ask those tough questions.
Yeah, you're not gonna, you know, if someone asks you a question and, you know, it's not completely lending itself to your cause, of course it's not, because they're either thinking something else or believing something else, or they're just curious, and you should know. You should know both sides. It's very important. And so he was talking about the rowing, and I've always been a good rower because my torso is like this
dimensions,
thing, and then my arms and my legs are like
so long.
Dumb. Yeah, like I have very long appendages, so
it does. It's very strange.
So I've always been good at rowing, and so like I just got on the rower for the first time in a while, and then I had
and you're good at it.
And I'm good
anything
at it.
he's good at. He's like he likes winning.
Danny
likes to win. So if he's not gonna win, and that's fine. I think that's a great way to be, honestly.
So I started to do the rowing, and then my whole philosophy lately has really I've started to find this whole new philosophy of how I train, and I find that it's really, really, for me at least, where I am right now, is awesome. So my new training style is basically this. I incorporate the rowing. I do like to do my time trials periodically to see if I'm getting faster. But, the beginning of my workout always starts with the rowing warm-up. So I'll do intervals. And if I'm doing a lower body workout, I'll include either body weight squats in the rest periods. So let's say I do 10 sets of 200-meter rows with a minute 45 rest. Well, during that minute 45 rest, I'm going to do 10 squats. So before my warm-up is officially done, I've already done 100 bodyweight squats. So I'm sweating, I'm feeling good. And then directly from the row warm-up, I go into a dynamic warm-up specific to the body parts I'm working with, whether it's upper body or lower. And then from there, I'll do a power movement. So on a lower body day, I'll either do tuck jumps or box jumps. On an upper body day, I like to do medicine ball explosive push-ups, or sometimes I like to do, on my shoulder day, I like to do handstand walks because it's just great stability work and getting my core ready. And then I'll do a heavy movement, and it's either bench, squat, deadlift, or overhead press. And I'm trying to get away from squatting. because I know I don't have to anymore, but it's just so hard. It's so hard for me as a powerlifter.
You feel like you have to squat. Yeah.
I feel like I have to squat. And it's just like, I was talking to another friend of mine about it yesterday. Actually, I was talking to two people. One of them, Brandon Lilly, who's a big powerlifter, and both of us are like, we don't know what to do with ourselves. We don't squat anymore. And then Ben Pekulski yesterday, I told him this, and he told me, he's like, you don't understand. I got back from the Arnold, and I felt the same way. So we're here in this place. We're 37. I'm 37, mid 30s, early 40s, and you want to stay powerful. You want to do things. You don't need to specialize. Let's work on being more like an athlete and doing things like that. And so it goes the rowing warm up, the power movement, the strength movement, and then I'll do like a circuit that includes some repetition, high repetition bodybuilding type stuff, and then maybe some body weight stuff, and then conditioning at the end, whether it's low intensity walking, uphill walking like I did today, or it's an actual rowing workout.
Okay, fantastic. So you said you don't squat anymore. Curious, what's up? What's up with that?
Well, I still do. Like today my squat workout was like 5 sets of 10 at 225 with kettlebell swings. So I'm not doing like, sets of 3 at 550 or, sets of 5, or anything like that. Also because my meniscus is still torn and I'm not going to get surgery. I don't need it. And I really only feel the pain if I go above a certain weight. Yeah. So, but the thing with the squat for me is that I have a thick trunk, and that's basically because of years and years of making my body squat a certain amount of weight. Yeah. You have to be, you'll never see a 600, 700 pound squatter with a small waist. It's just impossible. You need that trunk strength, and that comes with it. So you have to know that. And so,
so it's like you've been lifting. It's different at this age too, for people like you or Ben or whoever who's been lifting your whole life. Like, you don't want any more muscle after a certain point. Like honestly, like you don't want any more muscle.
Like I'm totally fine with like losing muscle if I had to. I mean, I think of things like what Dr. Naiman says, and I'm like, man, that's the goal. That's we should spread that word, which people are talking about cholesterol and this and that. And Dr. Naiman's like,
no, you need muscle.
Waist circumference,
absolutely,
maximum muscle, minimum body fat. Come back and talk to me. And if you're not healthy with those three things, a small waist circumference, a lot of muscle and low body fat, unless you're taking a bunch of drugs, of course, which would cause other health problems, you should be pretty darn healthy and live long and have a long and healthy, happy life.
That's true.
So a lot of women shy away from protein and just muscle in general. Do you have something for them?
Yeah, I say to not be scared, because the truth is that I regret all those gains that I missed out on. You know what I mean? Like, honestly. So because I spent so many years, I mean, I've been working out since I graduated high school. So because I was a dancer, and then I graduated high school and I wasn't really, I went from dancing like 4 to 5 hours a day to like 1 hour a week. And so of course I was gaining weight, and I always liked to work out. The gym has always been like a huge playground to me, but of course I was like huge cardio bunny, terrified of getting bulky. And so what I would say to them would, if that's even a thing anymore, hopefully it's not. I'm actually glad that, like, because it's a different time that we live in. When I was growing up, it was cool to be modeled skinny. And that was a thing. And that caused so much trouble for women, for girls, just trying to chase after that, like, model skinny. That's honestly the only reason I ever wanted to be a vegetarian. And I'm sad to say, but I was for a few years when I was in college. And the main reason was not so that I could be healthy. It was so that I can be skinny.
Yeah.
So that has to tell you something about that diet, because it doesn't probably help you put on muscle. But so yeah, I missed out on all those gains. I wish I would have started sooner. Now I'm like playing catch up, because I had this mentality thinking that I was going to like beef up in like 2 seconds. And so really what I have to say is that there are actual women out there that are trying to get big on purpose, and they're trying, like they're taking drugs and they're trying, and it's hard for them. You're not going to get big, because this is what I tell people. To be big, you have to be strong. You're not strong. So don't worry. Like, it takes a long time to get strong. Yeah. And so there's a lot of things and so much hard work that would have to get done for you to become bulky or big.
And you're not going to wake up overnight.
You're not going to wake up overnight and get, and that's another thing too, like muscle grows or it shrinks. There's no tone, like that doesn't exist. And so that's the message that I try to get through to my clients now. Like when they want to lose weight, I'm like, if you want to lose weight, you need to put on muscle.
Yeah.
Period. You need to, cause really what they want is to be lean. They think they want to be skinny, but no, you don't want to be skinny fat. You want to look like the girls that you're following on Instagram, and those girls lift weights.
And she I can't tell you how many times she'll look at these girls and she'll be like, look at her, like 5-10 years ago, that's what she looked like. She looks like the skinny girl. And she's been working at this, and now is when she looks like this.
Exactly.
And she's like, that's what she's talking about.
I've been working for almost 3 years, and it's like now I'm starting to see some gains. Yep. So it's like, it takes time. So even if you're scared of being bulky, don't worry. You have like a really long time to get there because it takes a lot.
So one controversial question here is a lot of women are afraid of animal consumption. I read this one study in which men seem to be more easier to reconcile with animal suffering, but a lot of women, based on that study at least, was that they can't seem to do that as often as guys. So how do you frame your thinking? How do you accept the fact that this is part of life?
Well, Georgia Eid did an amazing, like always, presentation on mental health and your brain on plants, basically. And so really her whole audience that she was targeting is women, because the truth is that 75 or more % of vegans are women. And the thing about that is that women are the ones that also carry the children. And so if you're not giving your brain the nutrients that it needs, the fetus is also not getting the nutrients that it needs. And so dad eating meat doesn't do any good for the baby. And the truth is that we're seeing a rise in a lot of things that are related to mental health. And there's nothing else to blame besides the fact that we're not getting the nutrients that we need. Because, I mean, we don't, just like Dr. Georgia Eid said, we don't need any more studies. We don't, because we know what the brain needs. We know. And it comes from animals. It doesn't come from plants. It's very, very difficult to get it right with plants. And also plants block absorption, and they have all these other things that, that they're blocking absorption, and they cause harm. Yeah. Other issues, digestive issues. And so I know it's just like so hard because we're told the opposite. And so it is a really hard message to get across, especially to those that are like vegans or plant-based, and that they really truly believe these things. Because, and that's the vegetarian myth is honestly like it's brutal because she doesn't hold back. And the truth is that when you're telling someone this, you're not just questioning, you're questioning their entire identity. You're questioning who they are. Yeah.
Because they're more likely to be against animal cruelty. They're more likely to be against animal cruelty.
They're more likely to be worried about the environment. That's how women are. We just have more activity in our frontal cortex, which gives us, that compassion, and we need it because we're the ones that raise children and all of that. But it's just not the truth. If that is the right thing, people should have been healthier by now, because that's what everyone's doing. And it's quite the opposite. We're seeing more mental health issues than ever. Dementia is expected to like triple. 50% of us will have dementia by the time we're old. Like our generation, 50% of us will have it. That's ridiculous. So really, if what they're saying works, it's not true. I mean, yes, people are eating a lot of carbs and stuff, but even plant-based, people are not, they don't look healthy to me.
Well, I think a lot of women don't understand the fact that the amount of things that have to die for.
That's another thing. And that's why I highly recommend either The Vegetarian Myth or Amber O'Hearn. I think I don't know if she touched it on your podcast. I've heard so many interviews and I can't keep them straight, but people do really truly believe that we're killing the planet by eating meat. We are against the farming of animals. Animals are supposed to graze and be free, and that is for a purpose. And they truly think that we're like killing off the earth, and we're not. It's quite the opposite. So much more actually has to die.
It's the grain that we're growing to feed them. That's the problem. You know, if we can sustainably grow, you know, feed these animals with, and we're honestly, we're changing the topography of our planet with all this factory farming and all this grain-based agronomy that's happening. It's terrible. Like, you know, I from a philosophical standpoint now, I'm much more, you know, because from a health standpoint, the grass-fed versus grain-fed, there's really not that much of a difference. You know, like Amber O'Hearn said it perfectly recently. She talked about how, you know, that 10% of polyunsaturated fats that exists, you know, that's what exists in the meat. And so the difference between that meat is within that 10%, you know, is there more omega-3 in that 10% or more omega-6? So from a health standpoint, there's not that big of a difference. But if you're talking about sustainability and, you know, what's happening to people and what's happening to all these places that have completely changed, animals that are dying and becoming extinct,
animals that are becoming nuisances because
like deer,
deer.
Yep.
But yeah, so the vegetarian myth is an awesome book, and it's just the mentality. It's hard because it's everything that's fed to the public, even from doctors. Like, you have doctors telling. I met a woman the other day in the sauna that has cancer, and she's on an all fruit diet. And I'm like, what? Like, does your doctor understand how cancer works? Because it works by fermentation. So I'm confused as to why you only eat sugar if you have cancer. And it's just so hard to hear these things because it's their doctors that are telling them these things. And who am I to tell you different? Do you know what I mean? So it's a frustrating thing, but I don't know.
Yeah.
We can only change it.
We can change, you know, what, and people are only receptive to the information that they ask for.
Yeah, one of the stories that I have to offer here is there was this one woman and her doctor and herself, they both decided to remove her breasts because apparently she has a familiar background with breast cancer. So there's several of these stories where there's a lot of misguidance around there. And I was talking to Ivor Cummins, allegedly, and he says as soon as you mention the word cancer, everyone just starts swarming on you if you're in the medical industry because it's just such a taboo topic. That's why a lot of our influencers on Twitter don't talk about cancer too much.
Yeah.
So, and so speaking of social media, you guys are both influencers on there and have quite a bit of following. And so let's say I'm a youth or a younger guy or a gal. How do I navigate my way through social media, especially Instagram and some of these places? How do I use that to my advantage, leverage it for learning, rather than there are plenty of ways to kill time and delve into fears and insecurities? How do you guys think it should be done?
Go ahead.
Well, the first thing that I will say is be mindful of the fact that you're going to be following people and your brain is probably going to want to compare you to them.
Yeah.
I completely understand having people to look at for inspiration and having people to aspire to. But I think the most important thing is to not compare yourself to them. Comparison in any sense, comparison in your ketones, comparison in the way your dimensions are. You have a body that was given to you, and you can improve that body and become, you know, the best version of yourself. But the minute you start to try to look at all these people, you know, Instagram, I can change my filters and all of a sudden it looks like I'm 20 pounds lighter. You know, there's a million things that you can do. So I think that social media is an amazing thing. It's amazing to me that I can meet people in Australia and they can start a pod, like, for instance, our friend Simon Drew, he has the Practical Stoic podcast. I listened to his podcast. We talked to each other. All of a sudden he interviewed me, we interviewed him, and now, you know, we're friends, and he's in Australia. And the same goes for, you know, someone who's even like a young person who's 13, 14 years old and, you know, has a knack for posting cool stuff on their Instagram, whether it's a product or something that they do. And all of a sudden they're an entrepreneur, because they have a direct line to the customer. Instagram in that sense has become just I think Instagram is the best for that reason.
It's a great tool. I think that, I think timing is everything. I feel like just how that's the thing for us. It very well, by the time our kids are older, not be the thing anymore,
for sure,
because it might be too congested at that point. And so it's like timing is everything. Like it's like if you're late to the YouTube party, it's kind of hard to like start. You can still do it, but it's not the same. Like these people that have like millions and millions and millions, they've been doing it forever. They've been doing it since the beginning. And then as far as the comparison thing goes, you're seeing someone's highlight reel. I'm not going to post and be like, I just yelled at my kids. Like, well,
we try to actually.
I mean, I do try to, because I do like to keep it real, but the that's not your go-to in the moment. You're not like, oh yeah, me and Danny just had an epic fight. That was great. And so just realize that that's just someone's highlight reel, and you shouldn't compare yourself or think that you even know someone.
And you shouldn't, don't try to get more followers. I will say that there was a time that I wanted more followers, and that was right before I got to 10,000, because I really wanted that swipe up feature. Well, I wanted the swipe up feature so that I can start sharing things. Like I could share, like, look at this new study, swipe up, look at, but for the most part, we don't try to increase our following. We just try to help people. We get back to every single person that gets to us, every single time. And I've said this a lot of times, but it's kind of weird to hear like, thank you so much for getting back to me. So often you're the only one that gets back to me. I told this person and this person. I'm just like, I hear you out here. So-and-so, you're talking about how you want to help people, but then you can't even answer direct messages. You can't even help people out and get them started. I mean, I understand to a certain extent, where if you have like, I'm sure it becomes impossible after a certain point, but I try to do it as much as I can, and maybe just, do, if you see that you're getting a lot of the same question, you can like put it on your story or something, but I'm sure it's hard when you like have a million followers. Yeah. That's when you can't be answering everybody. Yeah. Well, we start to have like, if it's, I have a pre-prepared, like in my iPhone notes, like certain things that answers like questions on
what is keto,
what books to get, what this to get, what podcasts to listen to. Keto Geek is on there. There's like 5 or 6. So it's not like I'm giving them a ton of them, but Keto Geek is for sure one of them. So you just got to make it so that to make your life easier. And a lot of people have other people running their accounts.
Yeah, that's too.
Yeah, just to kind of rewind a tiny bit over here, one of the most beautiful things I got to hear was from Csaba in Hungary. And he said that don't focus on everything, just focus on solving a problem. He'd said that in Hungarian, but it was Zofia who translated it to me, and they probably hear this podcast. Hello. So they're really cool people and really smart people. I like that you said that, because now I know how to pronounce his name. Because I've seen the studies that he does and everything, and now I know how to pronounce his name. Csaba. Okay. Ridiculously smart guy, by the way. Really good. If you ever get a chance to meet him, I would highly recommend it. Their Paleo Medicina is doing a phenomenal job. They're challenging everything on the face of the earth, and I wish them luck and full support. So now we can finally get into a topic that I originally wanted to talk about, which is how do you raise a family on a healthy diet? Doesn't have to be ketogenic, just a healthy diet. How do you maneuver the ship? How do you make sure that the kids are healthier? How do you incorporate training? Guys, you have the floor.
Well, the first thing you have to do is model the behavior that you want to see, because children know a hypocrite. They do. I knew it. I think of myself as a kid, and I mean, I was kind of always like an older soul. Like I wasn't so like childish, but I think of that, and I think of the fact that I can't tell someone to do something that I'm not doing. And so the first thing that you need to do is model the behavior that you want to see. So I don't know how many times I yell at my kid, stop yelling. And then I feel like the biggest, idiot, because I'm yelling. You know what I mean? I'm telling you to do something, to not do something that I'm doing. And so when we first started keto, and here's the thing, this has been an extremely difficult decision for us because in general, the way that we raise our children is with absolute, within reason, freedom. You know, I don't let my little one go for a walk.
You don't risk life or limb.
I don't risk life or limb. But they're their own people and I'm here to guide them and I want them to come to me. But like as far as food and stuff, I never wanted to control what they eat or anything like that. But then it gets to a point where we live in this world that it's just like, it's like a crime almost. Like to see the stuff that's marketed, like it's a crime. They're literally making these tiny little addicts that are going to be giving them money their whole life by creating an addict. And nothing is more addicting than sugar. Yeah. Honestly, like it's been shown to produce the same type of reaction in your brain as hard drugs, as opiates. And we know that we've eaten them. You get that, you know, like I've been there. And so it's just like you go to the supermarket and there's like, you don't find an Elmo steak. You know what I mean? You just don't. And so the marketing is horrific. And then, you know, my kids' health is important. And something that made me change my mind, honestly, because we didn't want to force them to be keto. We wanted them to just come to it. But then I heard Dr. Lemansky say how we are seeing 20-year-olds with strokes now and that it matters. It does matter. 20-year-olds are having strokes. He can diagnose just about anyone with fibromyalgia, which I don't even know what that means. It's basically, we don't know what's wrong with you. You're very sick.
Yeah.
You have fibromyalgia.
Generalized
you have
pain.
Generalized pain. We don't know what's wrong with you. And so that is scary, you know, like it's scary. And the last straw for us was last year. We went to Puerto Rico. We left our kids with family in Miami and they were eating like pure crap, like they always did, you know. We started them off like with the day they always had high fat. And they did, I would always try to start their day off right. You know, like in my house, they're not gonna, I mean, we would still get them like random stuff, but
drive through and crap like that.
Yeah. And it is easier. It absolutely is easier.
And it's convenient. Like,
and
shut up.
It's very
here.
Convenient.
Shut up. Here, take a chocolate bar.
Yeah, be quiet. Have a lollipop. Right. Yeah. But then when we got back from our trip, Desmond has horrific environmental allergies that he will be, when we were in Austin last year, and this was even, he was keto at that point.
Bleeding.
He just gets these horrible nosebleeds that are like a massacre. It's like I've never seen so much blood in my life. Really and he hates it. He's getting older now to the point where it's bothering him. My little one has like behavioral things that become less apparent when he's eating properly, and he has eczema and he has all this other stuff going on. And so when we got back, it was just everybody was like sick, you know, like the skin is flared up, we're coughing up a lung, we're bleeding out of our nose every half an hour. And so I looked at Desmond and I said, and you know, he's been watching us. That's the thing. He's been watching us this whole time. They would offer us treats. I politely decline. One of the things that I tell parents to do when they're like starting keto and they want to get their parents is to be extremely vocal and like obvious, like about how they feel. I'm feeling so great because I'm eating this way. Or, you know, when your kid, my children would offer me like a bite of their cookie, you know, because they think they're being polite. I'm going to decline and I'm going to take that opportunity to explain why.
Yeah. I don't eat sugar.
I don't eat sugar. And they ask why sometimes. They're like, why? And I would explain why. So they had been seeing it. And so Desmond had already been seeing Danny's constant experiments. Like he's always doing an experiment. I'm like, when are you not going to do an experiment?
Yeah. I love that he wants to be like.
And so, so we brought it up to Desmond and we were like, why don't you do an experiment for the next 3 days, just 3 days, eat meat. Like we needed him to be like an elimination diet. And the thing is that he already likes steak, so it wasn't that hard to get him to do it, right? And I knew that if I could fill him with just food that he likes, that's keto, he would do it. And I knew that that the ketones would do the rest. It's like, you know, like you got to just get someone's brain on drugs. Well, I just got to get your brain on ketones, and then that'll do the rest. Like I just got to get you past that initial crappy point, which by the way, for kids, it's nothing. Desmond had like a headache on day 2, and that was it. Because kids react much quicker. Their natural state is ketosis. you could literally feed a baby sugar and go test their ketones in the middle of the night and they would be in ketosis because it's almost impossible
You got
to
a brand new
baby.
factory fresh pancreas, dude. That thing is like, the brand new model. Like you're so insulin sensitive, and you know they can eat more carbs than us, and like honestly, they still don't. But we do say like the autonomy thing is so important for us. But we have conversations like, you know, what do you think that's going to do? You have certain goals, like you want to do parkour. You know, do you think that's going to get you there? Well, not really. You know, and then they, like Desmond will say, well, maybe I'll just get this instead. Maybe I'll eat this. And you know, the conversations, there's so many that we take for granted how knowledgeable Desmond is. And with Dean, it's even more autonomy because with Dean, just because of his personality, he's very much focused on doing what he wants to do. And so if you're going to fight him, you're going to lose.
And I won't fight him. Like, we'll let them at birthday parties. I'm not going to I don't want them to feel left out. And it's always their choice. Desmond will decline a lot of the time. Dean is 3 and I don't expect more from him. He doesn't understand the reason. He's kind of just keto by association.
But he does ask all the time now for keto versions of stuff.
But now he'll ask me, can you make me that? Like about everything, like a lollipop. Like he wants me to make him a keto version of everything.
Or a keto fruit. Like I love how he says, can you make me
a keto strawberry? I'm like, I'll just get you a strawberry.
Get strawberry.
But yeah, so now the best thing about the kids being keto now is that they are extremely easy to please. Because now they actually can taste food. When you're eating all those things, I mean, think about it. Like, just think about a bag of Doritos. That's like a double punch flavor. Like, even the commercials are like,
yeah.
And it's like this, like, it's like a fake flavor that is like,
people are
they made it in a lab and they were like, let's test it, your brain. Let's do it. And they made it in a lab. And like those flavors, like, what are those flavors? And then of course, any other food is not going to taste like anything. Even for me, when I went keto, like for me, a zucchini is sweet, and now for the kids, like you give them fruit and it's like the best day ever, and I like it that way, honestly. So
what the only other thing with kids is just we involve them in the cooking process.
Yeah, involve them in the cooking process.
And then allow them to cook for themselves. Desmond can he can't completely read yet, but I tell you what, man, he can cook himself some meals.
He can make himself eggs.
He can make himself all types of stuff. And and then the other thing is be creative with foods, like create new recipes. And we always try to share these recipes with people because we know that there's so many people now getting turned on to low carb, high fat diets, and they're going to want to include their family. I mean, it's just so inconvenient.
Well, because not only are they sick, but their kids are so sick.
Yeah,
like
that's sad,
the kids are so sick. It is when I go out to a park or whatever, I mainly see kids that are not healthy. Like I mainly see overweight kids, and my kid looks different. Or, it's just, it's not acceptable. Like it just isn't by any stretch of the imagination. You're not doing them a favor. And it's another hard thing is like family, because, especially like, there's a lot of cultures that food is like love. Our grandparents will try to like love them with cookies. And I'm like, that's not love. That is not love. And it's just, it does matter. It matters. And let them be kids. You aren't letting them be kids because they can't enjoy their childhood if they're obese.
And they're gonna resent you later if they know that you knew better and you didn't do something.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get into a practical scenario. In about 3 months, I'm gonna have a baby. How do I, step by step, make sure that that's gonna be healthy and preferably ketogenic? What strategies can I build around that?
Do you mean like during pregnancy or like when you have the baby?
We're just about 3 months before having the baby, so during pregnancy, we're preparing. Yes. So how do we do it?
Yes, well, definitely the nutrition before you get pregnant is extremely important. Dr. Eve mentions that again in her most recent. If you just Google her name on YouTube, the first thing that comes out is like our descent into madness or something like that, and mental health. She really, really addresses, women, because most vegans are women, and it's very important, the nutrition that you get while you're pregnant. And then after you have the baby, as difficult as it is, it will be the most difficult thing that a woman ever does, but you have to breastfeed your kid. Like you have to try until the death. Yeah. I don't want to hear, oh, I tried. No,
there is no,
there is no try. What if you were in the wild? There's no, pretend that you don't have an option. Yeah. When I had Desmond, they send me home with formula made out of soy and corn syrup solids. Okay. I threw it away. That's not an option for me.
Well, we had an amazing, what do you call
lactation
it? Lactation consultant who put the fear of God in me. She was like, you listen to me. She needs breaks. She needs to sleep. She needs her milk production, blah, blah, blah. And so the first 3 nights I didn't sleep. And so like the 4th night I was on the couch 20 minutes straight. My son was crying and she was in bed and she came out and she sees me sleeping. I had drank so much Cuban coffee. It was no longer working. She's like, you're useless to me like this. Come to bed. And so the nursing is important, but talk a little bit about the importance of after the nursing, what to give them, because this I think is why Desmond is the way he is with food.
Okay, yeah. Well, Desmond was like, we were paleo when Desmond was born, which is honestly the best thing ever for him. So he was exclusively breastfed. And I got to say to the women, like, your mind is a very powerful thing. If you say you can't breastfeed and that you can't do it, you're right. You can't do it. You're
just
right.
Like when you,
because it's the hardest thing you have ever done. You're going to have moments that you're like, this is the most horrific thing I've ever done in my life. This is pure slavery. And I think that we don't educate women properly about the truth. And it's like, let's not sugarcoat stuff. I thought that there was something wrong with me. And I'm like Googling in the middle of the night because, they tell you, oh yeah, 15 minutes on each side. And here's Desmond 3 hours later because he's such a hog, like nursing for 3 hours straight. And it's 3 a.m. And thank goodness for the internet, for other women to say, that's normal. Keep going.
It's terrible.
This is called cluster feeding and it sucks. Yeah. And that just the fact that knowing someone else went through it, you're like, okay, this is normal. It's going to go away. But okay. So after that, babies should start eating. Okay. We do this thing. It's called baby-led weaning. This is what it's called. We don't do mush. The mush, like pureeing all the food. Yeah. We don't do mush.
Breaking food down
for them. I'm not about the mush. A lot of times what happens with kids that are fed mush for a really long time, they'll have like texture aversions and they're like, oh, my baby gags. Well, yeah, you've been feeding them mush for 2 years. And they're like 2 already. Like I've seen like 2-year-olds eating mush and I'm like, what's happening? They have teeth. Also, that's another thing. You don't need teeth to eat a steak. Yeah. Desmond has proven this point.
Do it forever, but they'll get it.
So with baby-led weaning, what you do is you let your child kind of guide. I wouldn't feed a baby before earliest 5 months, maybe. But like Desmond started showing interest in my food like at 4 months. He was like, "Let me have your steak."
That's my boy.
Yeah, like reaching for my food. Where Dean was the opposite. Dean didn't really show interest until like around 9 months, even though I did offer him food at 6 months. And so what we do with baby-led weaning is you offer the child what you eat. You don't buy special food why would you buy special food for your kid?
But, more importantly than just what you eat, like nutrition powerhouses like raw liver. We would give Desmond
I would give him egg yolks with raw liver.
Yeah. And he would crush it. And he would eat all the steaks. And I'm telling you, the kid loved them so much. These kids, we know someone whose child, we see that they're feeding the child this, and then all of a sudden the child has the steak, and it's the most amazing thing to them. That should tell you something. There's no baggage there yet. They crave what their body needs, and so
and honestly, if you don't give it to them at all, like trust me, try to keep it as strict as possible for as long as you can, because the world is gonna screw it up anyway.
Yeah.
So don't worry, they're gonna get offered plenty of treats. Why? You don't need to have it in your house. Yeah. I love Amber O'Hearn, how she said she would give her, I didn't do this because I didn't know about this back then, but like beef bones with like a little bit of meat on them. That's a great teething toy. and they're getting all that nutrition. And yeah, you can raise a carnivorous baby if you want to. I did give my kids vegetables because at the time that's what I thought was the right thing to do, but they were always cooked and in butter, right? I would always cook everything in butter, and my children would always feed themselves with their hands. And that's the biggest part of baby-led weaning. You kind of cut food into like a French fry shape. So, you know, the meat is either shredded, or if it's like a sweet potato, or whatever vegetables, you cut it into, and they grab it and they can practice like chewing. And so, yeah, that sets them up. That sets them up. And it really, really does help. If you start, like, it's just like the worst cycle. I see it all the time. I couldn't breastfeed. I didn't produce milk. I'm like, what do you mean you didn't produce milk? You're not a human being? Okay.
There's actually a very small percentage.
There's a very small, and look, I understand that there are women that truly cannot breastfeed, but there isn't many. And you'll hear 75% of women say, like, who aren't breastfeeding, say that they didn't produce. But it takes time, and it takes work, and it's horrible, and it's painful, and sometimes you get an infection, and it's horrible. So you just gotta stick through it, and it does get easier. Nursing is not horrible the entire time. It's actually quite a nice experience of bonding that is very important.
Thank goodness for oxytocin. That's the payoff.
Yeah, it is the payoff. It's good for mom. It's good for baby. It helps your tummy go back. You literally feel the contractions while you're nursing, and you know, so the ones that don't nurse, it starts with the formula. And then here's the thing: the doctors, again, aren't giving out the right advice. I was told to put rice cereal in my son's milk when he was like 2 months old,
to make him pass out, to
make him basically go into a food-induced coma. But there's a reason babies don't sleep. They're not supposed to sleep. It's not safe for them to be passed out if they don't have neck mobility. There's reasons. These are like built-in survival mechanisms for babies. This is how babies are. They don't sleep. Get used to it. They just don't sleep. And so people think that this is not normal, and they're like, oh, my friend's baby's sleeping. I'm like, no, your friend's baby was knocked out with rice cereal. Like, I don't know what to say. And so that just starts that. And it's just like a vicious cycle.
This is why I love her, you know, because she's just so brutal. And like, I think it's important. You need to hear this.
No, it is important. You need to hear the truth. We're not being told the truth. I wasn't told the truth. I had to figure it out for myself. And this is why moms don't have success. And it's like all these things, it's like a cycle, you know?
Yeah, and it's a cascade of.
It is a cascade. Yeah, it's terrible.
Okay, I am not a mother, but I like to quantify things quite a bit. So let's say if I am mother, what kind of feedback do I receive from the kid knowing that I am doing the right thing when it comes to raising that little child?
Well, I guess just, you know, there are obvious, you know, milestones, like, you know, there's ranges though. I mean, I think the milestones to that can get you in trouble too.
Milestones can get you in trouble.
Because like some people walk, some children walk at 7 months, some of them walk at 15 months.
That's a big range.
It's not a big deal.
It's not a big deal.
This society that we live on that's so focused on results, and I understand that, don't get me wrong, but like, you know, when they're 5 and they're running in the playground,
it doesn't matter who
like,
walks.
This one was walking at 7 months. This one was walking at 15 months. Oh my gosh, what are we going to do? He's not walking yet. You know, there's certain things when they're so small that I don't think make it that big of a difference. The ranges are big, but you know, I don't know we didn't really think about that. I think we kind of knew, you know, we were doing the right thing when, you know,
intuition. Does intuition work? Like your gut feeling telling you?
For sure.
Intuition does work.
With the mother, you know, me, I have zero. There is no intuition. You know, she's the one who has all. She possesses the intuition, all of it.
Yeah, and it's like another thing that I think is really important is to have these conversations. Like if you're like, people don't even talk. Like a perfect example is she had a lot to do with a lot of the way that we raise our children. Oh. One of our bestest friends on earth, Anna Martin, she used to run a page called The Libertarian Homeschooler. Her children are older now. Well, not that much older. She has one that is 16 and he's already in college. They call it.
Well, no, it's like
it's a music. Interlochen, what is it called?
Academy. It's like in Michigan. It's
Okay,
it's like a Juilliard for high schools. Like
and he's an
pursuing
organist.
his dream away from home, doing what he wants. And she has this, probably, I don't know.
Gosh, great. Now he ruined my train of thought.
My bad.
Okay, I remember now. Okay, and I remember her saying that before she married her husband, that she sat down with him and she was like, "Look, I'm gonna homeschool, and if you have anything wrong with this, like this, that we cannot. That's it. Like, I don't have time for this. It's not gonna work." And I think people need to have these conversations. You have to be on the same page.
Yeah.
Because I hear that a lot. Like I hear, "Oh, I want to homeschool. My husband's not on board," or "I want to do this.
Parenting.
I want to peacefully parent my but my husband really believes in punishment," or all this stuff. You really, really have to be on the same page, because then it's just like, that's bad for the kids too. They're going to get mixed signals on. They're not going to know what's right, and they're probably going to manipulate each parent into.
Sure.
Yeah, they're not dumb. So I think it's important to have those conversations about, whether you want children or not, and then if you do, how things are.
Thoughts on
what are your thoughts? Like how are we because it's important. Like, this is the future. This is very important. It's like probably the most important work. Like, I feel if I do something wrong, I'm like, I'm not just screwing up my kids, I'm screwing up everybody they come in contact with. Like, Well,
that's the thing too with us, because we're both very similar in many ways, but we want to make the world a better place. I mean, it sounds corny, but we are both like, man, this sucks. This could be so much better. This world could be so much more awesome. And we've tried other ways. We got involved with politics and all that crap, and then we realized that it's a religion, and we're political atheists now. We don't believe in that. And so we're just like, how can we make the world a better place? We know what we can control now, and we stick to that. We can control this house, how we raise our kids, there's no way. So Anna, I think, was the first one who said this. It was like, we're two people now, where there were two, now there's four, because now our boys are emotionally intelligent. They know how to handle difficult situations, peacefully, and they're mindful, and that's why there's so many other things. Like, we want to travel the world. If you travel the world, you will never. It's almost impossible to become racist or a bigot or any of those things, because it's really hard to hate someone up close. I think we talked about this when we had you on the podcast.
It's hard to hate someone up close.
Like, what are you talking about that they do that over there? What, have you ever been there? I've been there. That's not what they do over there. That's
exactly.
Not, So, so that's a big philosophy for us is like,
that's also why we homeschool, which is a whole other thing.
Also for them too, for their sake, just this, it's been so long. It's been 7+ years of doing the research with this. And it's like, you can try to scare me. I mean, you can tell me, oh my gosh, what about this and what about that? And I can say, good for you, man. I don't know what to tell you. Like, my kid is going to do what he wants to do, because luckily we live in a free world and he can still do that. So.
Yeah, and hatred is truly, a lot of the times, driven by sensationalism that feeds upon our reptilian brain. And at the same time, just to add a little bit more, one of the best things humans can do is produce great offsprings and pass the knowledge and wisdom forward. And that's what I have to say. I think the role of parents is one of the most powerful, and a role that has transcended humanity and evolution through the dawn of time. Whatever your belief system is, it doesn't matter. Parents are part of society, and we need to value them. So just to go a little bit further with parenting, you guys also are in fitness and training. So when can parents bring their children to some sort of an athletic endeavor or physical training or lifting weights, or how do you introduce them to this lifestyle?
I start every baby off in gymnastics, honestly.
Yeah.
I start all babies in gymnastics. Like they have things like my gym. So a lot of gymnastics gyms start babies at 12 to 18 months. Desmond's been doing it since he was 12 months.
12 months, yeah.
And Dean started at 18 months and took a break, and now he started again. It's just such a good base, for stability, for their core strength, motor skills. It's a great sport to start with. Yes, it's a brutal sport that most children probably won't continue. But it's such a good base, and to get you ready for any other sport that you want to get into. I realized that it's very possible. Look, Desmond is super active and very into all sports and doing things like that. And, it is a possibility that maybe Dean won't be that way.
He's more indoorsy.
Yeah, he's more indoorsy. He's, he's not as active. He doesn't have as much energy, and that's okay. You know what I mean? That's okay. We don't expect our kids to be a replica of us. They are their own person and they have their own journey. Maybe he'll be a musician. I just want them to find what they like sooner rather than later. And so that's one of the main reasons that we don't send them to school either. There's just way too much time spent on subjects you don't care about, that you don't remember any of the information, and it feels like wasted time. Yeah. And now as that we're a little older, I mean, we're not old, but we've lived enough life to realize that time is very important. Time is very important. And there are so many things that I wish I could have probably done, hobbies or interests that I could have dove deeper into, if I weren't in school. But that's okay. Like, that was just, my mom couldn't, and that's okay. But knowing what I know now, and I have the opportunity that I can be home with them and I can do this for them, and now we live in an age of just information. Like, before, I had to go to the library to find information. My son doesn't even need to know how to read, pretty much. Like, he does, and he will learn, and he's learning.
As a means to an end. Initially, it'll be as a means to an end.
He's learning. But this kid figured out how to ask Siri anything.
I'll never forget that. That was like last year.
I found him talking into his iPad to search for things on YouTube.
He was like, I remember it was like a year ago when I first started hearing this, and he was like, show me videos of Slender Man. And that's a whole different subject. I'm like, how does my son know about Slender Man?
I know, bro. He's so crazy. Kid.
Now he's 7. There are guidelines for exercise, like the strength, the National Strength and Conditioning Association says that, I think females can start doing resistance training at like 12 or 10 to 12, and males a little bit older. But in reality, as far as resistance training goes, for instance, if your child has been, for instance, we would take Desmond in the car seat to the CrossFit gym, and he'd sit and he'd be watching us as an infant doing exercise. And so that's powerful, because you're seeing that and you're witnessing that. And it's obvious when you see him as a 3-year-old get on the rower and try to start rowing and do squats, and Dean, every single time he finds like anything that looks like a bar, like a broom or something, he'll put it on his back and start squatting. So if my children can do very good repetitions in bodyweight exercise, like the squat and the push-up and the pull-up, and they want to add resistance, I'm totally going to allow them to do that. Again, it comes down to me not pushing them. I mean, I'm not like, give me 20, like on Friday, we had, Maura had gone to the gym in the afternoon. I forgot why. And she took the van, and we didn't have the car seat. So we couldn't go to MMA. So I was like, you want to do a workout here? And so I let him pick the exercises. He did a sprint to the fence, which is really far, and sprint back. And then he did push-ups and squats. And then he says, let's take a break. I'm going to do 12 burpees. I'm like, who calls burpees a break, first of all? Anyways, so he does that. And then like we do a bunch of bag work, and he works on the things he's learning. So Dean, I was like, Dean, do you want to join? And he was like, no.
He's like, no.
He didn't want to join, He's
like, no.
So, and that's totally cool, man.
And
look,
that's fine.
You have to, I think one of the things that when we were thinking about this, like you asked this question, one of the things that's important is, I don't know if this is like more a majority of people who do this, but I would say probably some people who are pushing these kids past the limit are probably trying to live vicariously through their kids. Whereas why don't you just do that on yourself? Like, I don't need to prove anything with my kids. I'll do that with myself. And if they want to be the best, then I'll help them be the best. But I'm not going to try to relive old days gone by, like by pushing him to do things he doesn't want to do. Like
Anna says, children are not bling. They're not an accessory. And oftentimes we can use them as accessories. Yeah. They're not here to like make my picture look pretty. If my kid doesn't want to be in a picture, they're not in it. Like,
exactly. Dean is not in if you look at fat fueled kids, like a lot of the pics are just of
They're
Desmond.
Desmond.
And when Dean says, I want to take a picture, I'm like, ooh, awesome. That's an
And
opportunity.
it's coming from him.
But most of the times I'll say, hey, do you want me to take a picture of you with your meal? He's like, no. So I know.
But either way, single most important piece of advice I ever give anyone for parenting is just model the behavior that you want to see. Your kids are going to mimic what they see, and it's going to be a normal thing for them. My kids live in a gym. That's going to be like a normal thing for them. It's just something we do. They're not even going to think about it. And if you've read The Power of Habit, that's super powerful, because once you make something a habit, it just becomes a part of life and you don't have to think about it anymore. And even if Dean doesn't do it for a while and he's, I don't know, it doesn't matter. He's going to know that the option is there, and he's going to know that that's the right thing.
He's not going to unknow what he knows.
Exactly. You can't unhear what you've heard. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Not the King Leonidas 300 style where you take 100 kids and then
No.
throw them to the
Go
wolves,
fend for yourself.
see which one survives and makes it through the end of the day. I guess not.
Well, I will say just that it is important to challenge them and put them in tough situations, but still give them the choice, because that independence that you get from that and that confidence, I think that's important. But again, it's not forced. It's just like, hey, you wanna go in the water? You wanna go in the water? Oh, I'm scared of the ocean. Okay, if you don't want to, but I'm gonna ask him every time. We're gonna ask him to do things, and when they say no, it's too this or it's too scary, and I'll say no, it really isn't. But that's your choice,
Yeah.
Do you guys actively expose children to failure just to see how they would fight it or combat it?
Yeah, we try to. That's a huge thing that one of our favorite people ever, John Taylor Gatto, he's talks about this. Like, this is the best. I gotta like send it to you because it's amazing. And he talks about the Richard Branson story. I don't know if I have time, but Richard Branson, basically his mom like let him walk home when he was 4 years old. Think Dean. Okay, Dean is gonna be 4 years old now. There's no way that I would probably ever allow this. But this was a long time ago, and it was like in the middle of like farmland England.
And it's also his personality.
And it was also his personality. So she was also a stewardess, so she was worried that, she wanted him to be independent if anything ever happened to her. And she like straight up, when Richard Branson was 4 years old, 9 miles from home, said, "You think you can find your way home from here?" He said, "Yes." And she said, "Okay, so go ahead." He didn't get home for hours. You're 4-year-old. He says when he got home, I think it was like something ridiculous, like 8 hours. It was like 8 hours later, 8 or 9 hours later, when he got home. From that moment on, he said he felt like there was nothing he couldn't do. And he owns an island now. So it's fine. I think he's confident.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it is important to put them into situations and expose them to kind of dangerous situations. Again, we don't risk life or limb, but for example, Desmond will, and I let them guide me. I'm not like, hey, walk home by yourself. No, Desmond will ask me,
he seeks it out.
Can I walk home from our mailboxes are in the front of the neighborhood and we're like a few blocks back, and we'll pull up to get the mail. And he's like, can I walk back home by myself? Yes. Of course, not like in the middle of the night or anything, but like middle of the day, our neighborhood has plenty of people. There's safety in numbers. Yeah, sure. Walk home.
And the other thing too is like, getting away from this outcome-based thing where it's like, you have to win. I'm like, listen, there are a lot of losers out there that win all the time. They're losers. Like Desmond, if I say, Desmond, what do you have to tell me about winning and losing? And he'll say it, because I know he's got this one down. Winners, no matter what happens, they always win because they learn. Winners are people who learn from experience. And so, he's like, and then he'll tell me the whole thing. He'll be like, Papi, some people, they win stuff, but they're losers because they don't learn. And some people lose all the time, but they're winners because they learn, So, those are things, failure and losing and all those things, those are huge. We try to we don't go out of our way completely to put them in those situations, but if they present themselves,
yeah,
we do.
Okay, perfect. We're killing some considerable amount of time. You guys are awesome. So
I can sit here all day.
Yeah, this is what we love, man. So
I know. I told you I could talk about this forever, but I know.
Oh, this is great. So are there any other projects that you guys are working on currently that are awesome?
It's like,
I wonder.
knock it out of the park. He laid that one up for us.
All right, Danny's gonna take it.
So we have finally, because when we did the keto thing, we started doing like, I started my keto counterculture, and then she debated whether she should create an account or not for months and months and months, and finally did it. And so we're two separate people, and then we created an account for the kids to show people what the kids eat. And so we thought the best thing we can do is put us all under one roof. And so we bought the fatfuel.family URL. So www.fatfuel.family. This is our blog, and we're going to have everything there. We're going to have what we do with the kids from a homeschool standpoint, from a peaceful parenting standpoint,
Nutrition,
food, exercise. And so like stuff that we want to sell to, like, like my first thing that I'm doing is a carnivore cutting program with my friend Chris Urban, the ketologist. He's helping me with that, and we're partnering with that. And then just everything that we want to share with people, we're going to have a home for that. So that's the biggest thing for us. And we're really excited about that.
Okay. That sounds awesome. Well, do you guys have any other topics that you'd like to talk about right at the end over here? Or should we proceed with the plugs?
Just the website. I mean, the carnivore cuts, I think it's going to be good because that one it started as a cutting experiment with our membership site, Ketovangelist Unlimited. And we all did it. And I kind of like was toying with this and tweaking it. And I had really good results, and a lot of other people did. And so now that's the culmination of all those months of research and finding the perfect, protocols for the nutrition. And it's going to have training, and it's going to have education on carnivory, and it's going to have, of course, meal examples, and we're even going to have research if you want to enter the research program, giveaways, all that stuff. And then we're just going to continue. Maura is always asking left and right about workouts. She's putting out workouts. The first one is, of course, focused on glutes, because
that's what everybody wants.
I would say
that's what all these girls want.
Well, I would say she's an authority on building proper glutes, because I check. I'm a quality control expert, and I check, and so
quality control.
and so
there's going to be exercise programs, and it's just a home for all
recipes,
the things.
How to raise little superhumans, happy people, how to make the world better by becoming a happy family. And taking the hate out of the world. That's it.
Exactly.
You guys are so positive. It's refreshing. It's kind of nice. It's very family style. I really appreciate your outlook. It seems like a beautiful light, a light in the darkness sort of analogy I can think of right on.
Well, you're part of that, man. Yeah. You're part of that. That's why we gravitate towards you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. And so how can people find you?
Well, on Instagram, I am at FatFieldMom. Danny is at Keto Counterculture.
And that's on Facebook too.
And that is also on Facebook. We both have our those pages set up on Facebook, as well as our kids. So if you're interested in our kids' food and tips on what we do with them, it's Fatfield Kids on Instagram and Facebook, and then of course our website. We do have a YouTube that we haven't posted anything to for quite some time. YouTube is just the struggle. It's just, we're gonna be releasing a video soon. Danny's 50K row that he just did for charity. We documented it, and we're gonna try to get better at that. And you can find us there, Fatfueled Family.
And the same thing with Twitter. So like all of our Instagram feeds, all 3 accounts go to our Fatfueled Family Twitter, because Twitter didn't allow me to put my keto counterculture is apparently too long for Twitter. So we
I didn't know they had a limit.
Yeah, I was like keto counterculture. I was like, they cut me off. So I was like, okay, Fatfueled Family wasn't taking anything.
Okay.
So
that's all of us.
Real quick, do you guys also coach families if some family wants to reach out and ask for advice? Is that a possibility? Can that be done?
I think what
we're going to offer
to make it, because remember, we've talked about this too, man. When you're building a business, you have to make sure it's scalable. And after a certain point, unfortunately, time is so finite. So I think what we thought would be a good idea would be like a 1-hour Q&A session where you bring all of your questions there. And, we would like to have, like, I don't want to I guess I would call it a curriculum, something that would have all the important points that we find are important. And anybody who, for some reason, thinks we know enough to pay us to ask us about this stuff, and we would be able to do that. And so I think that would be the best approach. But I would love to write like a book for sure. But that's
that would be far out. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's written a book about raising kids or a family in a ketogenic
Well, Ben
state.
Greenfield has a really cool like little ebook that's like $5 or $7, and it's just like 10 things that are important. Like, and he talks about like eating your boogers and not showering, and then he's like, and then he gives you like
he's
awesome.
He's
though,
hippie for sure.
He's like
hippie dreams,
but he backs it up with science.
He does,
you know,
he backs
like
it up.
all these kids, he's like, my kids don't shower but every 3 days, and then she's always giving me crap because I'm supposed to be the one to bathe them, and I'm like, see, every 3 days, that's good.
Yeah, but they don't.
Like,
they don't. And no, but I'm about that life too. You know that.
Yeah.
But yeah, we maybe we'll do something along those lines, because we're also weird in that sense. Like, I don't make my kids wash their hands, or I mean, unless they were in the bathroom. I draw the lines at bathrooms because that's how we get stomach bugs, and I don't want a stomach bug. It's not fun. But yeah, like the whole washing hands. I don't think I've ever spent my own money on like an antibacterial gel or anything like that. Yeah, no, my kids get dirty and it's perfectly good for them.
Yeah, they didn't quite have those back in the good old days, didn't they?
How did we make it?
You know, you should name the title of this "Eating Boogers."
Ew! Don't do that. What a weirdo.
Everybody's got their own tiny little quirks here and there.
Oh man.
Oh my gosh, you're so ridiculous.
All right. Well, thank you so much for showing up to the podcast. You guys have been a blast, and thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you
man.
so much for having us.
Thank you for listening to the show. You can visit us at ketogeek.com to check out our premium keto-friendly and low-carb food products, including our infamous energy pods, made from the best ingredients we could find in the entire country. We also recommend signing up for our newsletter at ketogeek.com/signup, where you get exclusive discounts, rewards, product announcements, and the latest content we are working on. You also get a 10% discount on your entire order when you sign up. Go to ketogeek.com/signup to join the low-carb playground.